Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I've been driving trucks for about 15 years now. Seen a lot of weird stuff on the road. Animals you wouldn't expect. Weather that comes out of nowhere. People doing things that make no sense at 3 in the morning. But what happened to me on Interstate 80 in Nebraska back in 2019 still keeps me up at night. It was late October. I was hauling a load of furniture from Sacramento to Chicago. The kind of run I'd done 100 times before. Long, boring, mostly empty highway once you get past the Rockies. I'd left Cheyenne around midnight, planning to push through to Des Moines before I stopped for any real sleep. The weather was clear. Cold, but clear. Not much traffic. Just me. The white lines and the darkness pressing in on both sides. Around 2:30 in the morning, I was somewhere between North Platte and Kearney. Middle of nowhere, Nebraska. Flat farmland stretching out forever. No towns, no lights except my own headlights cutting through the black. The radio had lost signal about 20 miles back, so I was driving in silence. Just the hum of the engine and the road noise. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the shoulder of the highway, right there on the edge of the asphalt, wearing a white dress. Long white dress that went down to her ankles. Her hair was long and dark, hanging down past her shoulders. She wasn't moving, just standing there, facing the road. I saw her maybe 200 yards ahead in my headlights. My first thought was that she'd been in an accident, that maybe her car had broken down and she needed help. But I didn't see any vehicle. No car on the shoulder. No lights. Nothing. I started slowing down. It's not safe to just stop on the interstate, but I couldn't just leave someone stranded out here, especially not in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. As I got closer, I could see her more clearly. She was young, maybe mid-20s. Pale skin, her dress looked old-fashioned, like something from a different era, and she was barefoot, standing on the cold asphalt in bare feet. I pulled over about 50 feet ahead of her and put on my hazards, grabbed my flashlight, opened the door and climbed down from the cab. The cold hit me immediately. It was probably in the low 30s. The wind was cutting across those flat fields like a knife. I walked back toward her, flashlight pointed down so I wouldn't blind her. "Hey," I called out. "You okay? You need help?" She didn't respond, didn't even look at me. Just kept staring straight ahead at the highway, at the empty road stretching into the darkness. I got closer, maybe 20 feet away. "Miss, are you hurt?" That's when she turned her head and looked at me. Her eyes were completely black, not just dark, black, like there was nothing there, no white, no iris, just black. I stopped walking. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to get back in the truck, to leave, to get the hell away from her. But I'm a rational guy. I told myself it was just the lighting, just shadows, just my tired brain playing tricks on me after too many hours on the road. "Are you okay?" I asked again. My voice didn't sound as steady as I wanted it to. She smiled. Wide. Too wide. Her mouth opened and kept opening until it didn't look human anymore. Then she started walking toward me. Not fast. Slow, deliberate. Each step making no sound even though she was barefoot on asphalt. That white dress moving around her legs even though there was no wind anymore. Everything had gone still. Completely still. I backed up. Fast. Nearly tripped over my own feet. I turned and ran for the truck. Climbed up into the cab and slammed the door, locked it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get the truck in gear. I looked in my side mirror. She was standing right next to the truck. Right there. Her face was pressed against the window of the sleeper cab, those black eyes staring in at me. That impossibly wide smile stretched across her face. I hit the gas. The truck lurched forward, tires squealing. I didn't care about the load. Didn't care about anything except getting away from her. I looked in the mirror again. She was standing in the middle of the highway, not moving, just watching me drive away, getting smaller and smaller in the distance until the darkness swallowed her up. I drove for 3 hours straight, didn't stop until I hit a truck stop outside of Lincoln, sat in the parking lot with all the lights on, hands still shaking, heart still pounding. I asked other drivers if they'd seen anything weird on I-80 that night, if they'd seen a woman in a white dress. Nobody had. Most of them looked at me like I was crazy, like I'd been on the road too long. But one older driver, guy named Carl, who'd been hauling for 30 years, he didn't laugh. He just looked at me real serious and said, "You saw her too, huh?" Turns out I wasn't the first. Carl told me about at least a dozen other drivers over the years who'd reported seeing a woman in white on that same stretch of highway. Always between North Platte and Kearney. Always in the middle of the night. Always alone. Some drivers said they stopped. Some said she tried to get in their trucks. One guy said he saw her standing in the middle of the road, and when he swerved to avoid her, she vanished. There's stories about who she might be. A woman who died in a car accident in the 60s. A bride who was killed on her wedding night. A hitchhiker who was murdered. Nobody knows for sure. Nobody even knows if she's real. But I know what I saw. I know those black eyes. That smile. The way she moved without making a sound. I've driven I-80 100 times since then. Different times of day. Different seasons. I've never seen her again. But every single time I pass that stretch of highway between North Platte and Kearney, I keep my eyes straight ahead. I don't look at the shoulders. I don't slow down. I just drive. And I always make sure my doors are locked. Because somewhere out there in the dark Nebraska night, she's still standing by the side of the road. Still waiting. Still watching for the next driver who's stupid enough to stop. I'm a regional driver. Mostly Midwest routes. Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. I know these roads like the back of my hand. Every truck stop, every rest area, every cheap motel where you can grab a few hours of sleep. So when I pulled into a truck stop I'd never seen before, I should have known something was wrong. It was February 2021. I was hauling auto parts from Detroit to Indianapolis. The weather was shit. Snow coming down hard, roads were getting bad. I'd been driving for about 6 hours and I needed fuel. Needed coffee, needed to check the weather and figure out if I should just pull over and wait it out. I was on US 127 in southern Michigan, middle of nowhere. Just farms and small towns. I'd driven this route probably 50 times. I knew there wasn't a truck stop for another 40 miles, but then I saw the sign. Big blue sign with a gas pump symbol and a knife and fork. Truck stop, next exit. I didn't remember seeing that sign before, but it had been a while since I'd driven this route. Maybe it was new. Made sense. Lot of truck traffic on this highway. I took the exit, 2-lane road leading off into the darkness. Snow was falling heavier now. My wipers were barely keeping up. The road curved through some woods and then opened up into a clearing. And there it was. A truck stop. Big parking lot. Fuel pumps. A main building with lights on inside. A few trucks were already parked. I pulled in. The parking lot was mostly empty despite the trucks I'd seen. Maybe 4 or 5 trucks scattered around, all of them dark. No lights on inside, no signs of drivers. I parked near the main building and killed the engine. Sat there for a minute. Something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. The place just felt wrong somehow, but I needed fuel, and I needed coffee, and I wasn't about to sit out in a snowstorm because of a feeling. I climbed out of the cab. The cold hit me like a wall. Snow was coming down in thick, wet flakes. The parking lot was covered. No tire tracks except mine, which was weird because I'd seen trucks parked here. I walked toward the building. The lights were on inside, but I couldn't see anyone. The windows were dirty, covered in grime like nobody had cleaned them in years. I pushed open the door. A bell jingled. Old-fashioned bell on a spring. The inside was warm. Too warm. Stuffy. Like the heat had been running for days. There was a counter with a cash register, aisles of snacks and supplies, a coffee station, everything you'd expect in a truck stop. But everything was old. Not vintage, not retro. Old. Like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. The floor tiles were cracked and yellowed. The shelves were dusty. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed and flickered, and there was nobody there. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded too loud in the empty space. No answer. I walked up to the counter. There was a bell, one of those little service bells. I rang it. The ding echoed through the building. Still nothing. I looked around. There was a door behind the counter, probably an office or storage room. I called out again. "Anyone here? I need fuel." That's when I heard it. Footsteps, coming from somewhere in the back. Slow, heavy, getting closer. A man emerged from the back room. He was tall, maybe 6'5", thin, wearing old greasy coveralls. His face was gaunt. Sunken eyes. Skin that looked gray in the fluorescent light. He didn't say anything. Just stared at me. "Hey," I said. "I need to fuel up. Pump 3. He kept staring. Then slowly, he nodded. Reached under the counter and pressed something. I heard a click, the pumps outside activating. "Thanks," I said. I grabbed a coffee from the station. Poured it into a styrofoam cup. The coffee looked old, thick, almost black. But I needed the caffeine. I walked back up to the counter. The man was still standing there. Still staring. "How much for the coffee?" I asked. He held up 2 fingers. $2? He nodded. I pulled out a $5 bill and put it on the counter. He picked it up slowly, opened the register. The inside of the register was empty except for a few old coins. He pulled out 3 ones and put them on the counter. The bills looked old. Really old. The kind of old bills you don't see anymore. I picked them up. They felt wrong, too thick, the paper too rough. "Thanks," I said. I turned to leave. "Wait." His voice was rough, like he hadn't spoken in a long time. I turned back. "Yeah? You shouldn't be here." I felt cold despite the stuffy heat. "What do you mean?" "This place, it's not for you. You need to leave. Now. I just need fuel, man. Then I'm gone." He shook his head slowly. "The fuel won't help you. Nothing here will help you. This place isn't real." I laughed, nervous laugh. "What are you talking about? I'm standing here. You're standing there. Seems pretty real to me." He leaned forward. His eyes were completely black. Just like that woman in white I'd seen years ago. "You need to leave. Get in your truck. Don't use the fuel. Just drive. Get back on the highway and don't come back." I backed away. The coffee cup slipped from my hand and hit the floor, hot liquid spreading across the cracked tiles. I turned and ran for the door, burst out into the snow. It was coming down even harder now. The parking lot was empty. All those trucks I'd seen before were gone. Just my truck sitting there alone. I ran to it, climbed inside, turned the key. The engine roared to life. I didn't care about fuel. I didn't care about anything except getting out of there. I threw the truck into gear and headed for the exit. Looked in my rearview mirror. The building was dark now. No lights. Like it had been abandoned for years. And standing in the doorway was that man, just standing there, watching me leave. I got back on the highway, drove straight to the next town, pulled into a real truck stop. One I recognized, fueled up, drank about 3 cups of coffee, tried to calm down. Later that week, I looked up that exit on US 127, tried to find that truck stop on Google Maps, on satellite view, tried to find any record of it. There was nothing, no truck stop, no building, just empty farmland. The exit I'd taken didn't even exist on the map. I asked other drivers if they'd ever seen a truck stop on that stretch of highway. Nobody had. Some guys said I'd probably been hallucinating, too tired, too much time on the road, my brain playing tricks on me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I was just exhausted. Maybe the snow and the dark and the isolation made me see something that wasn't there. But I've still got those $3 bills in my wallet. Old bills. The kind they stopped printing in the 60s. And when I look at them, I remember that man's face, those black eyes, his voice telling me that place wasn't real. I don't drive US 127 anymore. I take the long way around. I-69 south through Indiana. Adds an hour to my drive, but I don't care. Because somewhere in southern Michigan, there's a truck stop that doesn't exist. And if you're driving on a dark, snowy night and you see a sign you don't recognize, keep driving. Don't take that exit. Don't stop there. Because you might not be able to leave. Route 90 through South Dakota is one of the loneliest highways in America. Miles and miles of nothing, prairie grass, badlands, small towns that feel like they're dying. It's the kind of road where you can drive for an hour and not see another car. I was hauling grain from Sioux Falls to Billings. Summer of 2020, middle of July, hot as hell. The kind of heat where the road shimmers in the distance and you can smell the tar melting on the asphalt. It was around 9 at night. Sun had just gone down, but it was still light out. That weird twilight time where everything looks flat and washed out. I was about an hour west of Rapid City, middle of nowhere. That's when I saw him. He was standing on the shoulder of the highway, thumb out. Classic hitchhiker pose. He was wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, baseball cap pulled low over his face. Duffel bag at his feet. I don't usually pick up hitchhikers. Nobody does anymore. Too risky. Too many stories about drivers getting robbed or worse. But there was something about him that made me slow down. Maybe it was the fact that I hadn't seen another soul for 50 miles. Maybe it was the heat making me stupid. Maybe I just felt sorry for the guy. I pulled over about 20 feet past him, put on my hazards, watched in the side mirror as he picked up his bag and jogged toward the truck. He climbed up on the passenger side, opened the door, tossed his bag on the floor and climbed in. "Thanks, man," he said. "I've been out here for hours." Up close, I could see him better. He looked to be in his 40s, weathered face, stubble on his jaw, eyes hidden by the shadow of his cap. "Where are you headed?" I asked. "West," he said. "Anywhere west. I'm going to Billings. I can take you as far as the Montana border." "That works." I pulled back onto the highway. We drove in silence for a few minutes. I kept glancing at him. He was staring straight ahead, not moving, barely blinking. "You from around here?" I asked, just making conversation. "Used to be," he said. "Long time ago." More silence. The cab of the truck suddenly felt too small, too warm despite the AC running. "What's your name?" he asked. "Marcus," I said. He nodded slowly. "Marcus, that's a good name." Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl, like he was testing the sound of it, like he was trying it on. "What's yours?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just kept staring at the road. Then he said, "You can call me Jack." "Nice to meet you, Jack." "Is it?" I glanced at him. "What? Is it nice to meet me, Marcus?" The way he said my name again. Drawing it out, it made me grip the steering wheel tighter. "Sure," I said. I didn't know what else to say. He smiled. I could see it out of the corner of my eye. A slow smile that didn't reach his eyes. We drove for another 10 minutes. 15. I was starting to regret picking him up. Starting to think about how isolated we were out here. How nobody would hear anything if something happened. How easy it would be for someone to hurt me and leave me on the side of the road and just take my truck. You ever pick up hitchhikers before, Marcus? He asked. Not usually, I said. Why'd you stop for me? Good question. I didn't have a good answer. Felt like the right thing to do, I guess. The right thing. He laughed. Low, quiet. That's funny. Why's that funny? Because you have no idea who I am, what I've done, what I might do. My heart was pounding now. Look, man, if you're trying to scare me, I'm not trying to scare you, Marcus. I'm just being honest. You picked up a stranger, invited him into your truck, and now we're alone. Miles from anywhere, and you don't know anything about me. I didn't say anything. I was watching the road, looking for lights, for a town, for anywhere I could pull over. But here's the thing, he continued. I know about you. I glanced at him. What are you talking about? Marcus Hayes, age 42, divorced, 2 kids you barely see, live in a shitty apartment in Omaha, drive for Midwest Freight Lines, have been for 8 years. You hate your job, hate your life. Sometimes you think about just driving off the road, just ending it, don't you? My blood went cold. How do you know my name? How do you know any of that? He smiled wider. I know lots of things, Marcus. Get out. What? Get out of my truck, now. We're in the middle of nowhere. I don't care. Get out. He laughed again. That same low, quiet laugh. You're scared. I can smell it on you. I'm serious. Get out or I'm calling the cops. Go ahead. Call them. Tell them what? That you picked up a hitchhiker and he knew your name. They'll think you're crazy. He was right. I knew he was right. But I didn't care. I just wanted him out of my truck. I started slowing down, pulling over to the shoulder. That's when he reached out and put his hand on my arm. His skin was ice cold, like he'd been dead for days. I jerked away. The truck swerved. I overcorrected. We fishtailed on the shoulder. Gravel spraying. I fought the wheel, got control, brought us to a stop. I turned to him. Get the fuck out. Now. He was staring at me. And his eyes were wrong. They were reflecting the dashboard lights like an animal's eyes. Like there was something behind them that wasn't human. You should have kept driving, Marcus, he said. Should have left me on that road. Because now I know where you're going. I know what you're hauling. I know when you sleep, when you stop, when you're vulnerable. Who are you? I'm the thing that lives in the empty spaces, the places between towns, the long, dark roads where nobody can hear you scream. I'm what happens when you make bad choices. I reached for my phone. He grabbed my wrist. That cold grip. Squeezing. I felt bones grinding together. Don't, he said. I looked at him, really looked at him. His face was changing. The skin looked wrong. Loose, like it was a mask, like there was something else underneath. Then he let go. Opened the door, grabbed his bag. Thanks for the ride, Marcus. I'll be seeing you. He climbed out and slammed the door. I hit the locks, all of them. Watched as he walked around the front of the truck. He stopped in the headlights, turned and looked at me, smiled that impossible smile. Then he walked off into the darkness, into the prairie, just walked straight out into the nothing and disappeared. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes, engine running, hands shaking, heart hammering in my chest. Then I drove. Drove straight through the night, didn't stop until I hit Billings 16 hours later. I reported it to the company, told them everything. They thought I was losing it. Told me to take some time off. Get some rest, maybe see a counselor about the stress. I did take time off. 2 weeks. Stayed in my apartment with the doors locked. Checked every lock 3 times before bed. Woke up every time I heard a noise. When I went back to work, I requested different routes. Anything but South Dakota. Anything but those long, empty highways. If you're still listening, you probably enjoy stories like this. A like or a comment helps keep them alive. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving through the dark and I see someone standing on the shoulder, thumb out, and I remember that cold grip, those eyes, that smile, and I keep driving. I never stop anymore, not for anyone, because somewhere out there on Route 90, there's something that wears a human face, something that knows your name. Something that waits in the empty spaces. And if you stop for it, if you let it in, it will never let you go. Interstate 40 through New Mexico is brutal. Desert on both sides, heat that'll cook you alive during the day, cold that'll freeze you at night, not many towns, not many places to stop. You learn real quick where the good rest areas are. Mile marker 187 was not one of them. I'd been driving for almost 12 years, and I'd never stopped there. It was one of those forgotten rest areas, the kind that looks abandoned even though technically it's still open. Cracked parking lot, old bathrooms that probably haven't been cleaned in months. No lights, no other trucks. But on this particular night in September 2018, I didn't have a choice. I was hauling electronics from Albuquerque to Flagstaff, left around 6 p.m. figuring I'd drive through the night. Cool down, less traffic, standard overnight haul. Around 1 in the morning, my stomach started cramping. Bad. I'd grabbed some sketchy gas station food back in Santa Rosa, and it was coming back to haunt me. I needed a bathroom. Fast. The next town was 40 miles away. I wasn't going to make it. I saw the sign for the rest area at mile marker 187. I'd passed it 100 times, but never stopped. Tonight I didn't have a choice. I took the exit, short little access road leading off the interstate. The rest area was set back from the highway. Surrounded by scrub brush and desert, no lights on the access road. My headlights were the only illumination. I pulled into the parking lot. It was completely empty. The main building was dark. One flickering light over the entrance to the bathrooms. Everything else was shadows. I parked as close to the bathroom entrance as I could. Killed the engine. Sat there for a second. Every instinct was telling me not to get out, to just drive to the next town, to hold it. But my stomach cramped again. Hard. I didn't have time to second guess. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed out of the cab. The desert night was cold, wind blowing hard. I could hear it whistling through the scrub brush. Could hear something else, too. A rattling sound, like metal on metal, coming from somewhere in the darkness. I walked fast toward the bathroom entrance. The door was propped open, rusted metal door hanging crooked on its hinges. I pushed through. The smell hit me first. Mold. Urine. Something else. Something rotten. The floor was wet. Puddles of standing water. The tiles were cracked and broken. Graffiti covered the walls. Most of it was faded, old, but some of it looked fresh. Weird symbols, words and languages I didn't recognize. I found a stall that looked somewhat usable. Tried not to touch anything, did my business as fast as possible. The whole time I could hear that rattling sound. Louder now, like it was right outside. When I was done, I got out of that bathroom as fast as I could. Back into the cold desert air. That rattling sound had stopped. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. That's when I noticed the other truck. It was parked on the far side of the lot. I swear it hadn't been there when I pulled in. Big rig, older model, dark blue. No lights on inside, no company logo, just sitting there in the shadows. I walked toward my truck, kept my eyes on that other rig. Something about it felt wrong. The cab was too dark. The windows looked tinted, but not regular tint. Black, like they'd been painted over. I climbed into my truck, started the engine. Looked over at that other rig one more time. Someone was standing next to it, just standing there in the darkness. I couldn't make out any features, just a shape, a human shape, standing perfectly still. I put my truck in gear, started pulling out, kept watching that shape in my mirrors. It wasn't moving, just standing there. I got back on the interstate, checked my mirrors every few seconds. No headlights behind me. Nothing. I was alone on the highway. I drove for about 10 minutes. Started to relax. Started to convince myself I'd just been spooked, that it was just another trucker, that there was nothing weird about it. Then I saw the headlights. Way back behind me, maybe a mile. Coming fast, really fast. Faster than any truck should be going. I watched in my mirror. Those headlights getting closer, closer. I could see it now. Dark blue truck, no lights on the cab, just those headlights, bright and getting brighter. It pulled up right behind me, close, too close. I could see it in all 3 mirrors. Could see that black windshield. Couldn't see anyone inside, just black. Then it started flashing its lights, high beams, on and off. On and off. Rapid, aggressive. I sped up. Pushed the truck harder, 70 miles per hour, 75. That's about as fast as I can safely go with a full load. The truck behind me stayed right there, inches from my rear bumper. It flashed its lights again. Then I heard the horn, long blast, then another, then rapid blasts. Like it was angry. I grabbed my CB radio, switched to channel 19. This is eastbound on I-40 at mile marker 195. I've got a truck right on my tail. Aggressive driver. Anyone else seeing this? Static. Then a voice. Male, distorted. You stopped at 187. I felt ice in my veins. What? You stopped at the rest area, mile marker 187. You weren't supposed to stop there. Who is this? You need to pull over. Are you the one behind me? Pull over, now. Fuck you. I threw the CB handset down, pushed the truck harder, 80 miles per hour. The engine was roaring. The whole cab was shaking. That truck stayed right behind me, no matter how fast I went, like it was attached to me, like we were connected. I saw lights ahead, a town, Grants, New Mexico. Small town, but it had a truck stop. Lots of lights, lots of people. Safety. I took the exit. Fast, too fast. Nearly jackknifed. Got control. Pulled into the truck stop parking lot. Slammed on the brakes, jumped out, ran toward the main building. I looked back. That dark blue truck was sitting at the edge of the parking lot. Engine running. Just sitting there. I went inside. Found the night manager. Told him there was someone following me. That I needed him to call the cops. He looked at me like I was crazy, but he called. State trooper showed up 20 minutes later. I explained everything. The rest area. The truck. The chase. He took notes. Looked skeptical. We went outside. That dark blue truck was gone. The trooper checked the parking lot. Asked other drivers if they'd seen anything. Nobody had. He ran my information. Made sure I wasn't drunk or high. Suggested I get some rest before continuing my drive. I stayed at that truck stop until sunrise. Sat in the driver's lounge with all the lights on. Drank coffee. Watched the parking lot. That truck never came back. When the sun came up, I finished my drive to Flagstaff, delivered my load, drove straight home, took 3 days off. I've driven I-40 dozens of times since then. I've never stopped at mile marker 187 again. I drive past it, always during the day. And I always check my mirrors. Other drivers have told me stories about that rest area. About trucks that appear and disappear. About people who stop there and never make it to their destination. About voices on the CB radio giving warnings. Nobody knows what it is. Some kind of trap, some kind of test. Some say it's haunted, some say it's something worse. All I know is this. If you're driving through New Mexico on Interstate 40 and you see the sign for the rest area at mile marker 187, keep driving, don't stop. Don't even slow down, because whatever's waiting, there isn't human, and once you stop, once you set foot in that place, it knows you, it follows you, and it won't stop until it gets what it wants. I still don't know what I escaped that night. I still don't know what would have happened if I'd pulled over, if I'd stopped when that voice told me to, and I never want to find out. U.S. Route 50 through Nevada is called the loneliest road in America, and it lives up to the name, 400 miles of nothing. Desert, mountains, small towns that barely register as towns. You can drive for an hour and not see another vehicle. I was making a run from Reno to Delta, Utah in March of 2019, hauling mining equipment, heavy load. Slow going. I'd left Reno around 5 p.m., planning to push through the night. I'd done this route before. I knew what to expect. Lots of darkness, lots of nothing, lots of time alone with your thoughts. Around midnight, I was somewhere between Eureka and Ely, middle of the loneliest part of the loneliest road. No moon, no stars, just my headlights cutting through the absolute black. That's when I saw the lights behind me. Headlights, multiple sets, maybe 5 or 6 trucks, all in a convoy. All following each other, all following me. I checked my speedometer. I was doing about 60. These trucks were coming up fast. I moved over to let them pass, but they didn't pass. They slowed down, matched my speed, stayed right behind me, all in a perfect line, all maintaining the same distance, like they were connected. I tried the CB radio. This is westbound on 50. Looks like we got a convoy here. You guys hauling together? No response. Just static. I tried again. Anybody back there? You're welcome to pass. Still nothing. I watched them in my mirrors. All their headlights were on, but I couldn't see the trucks themselves. Just lights. Like the trucks were invisible except for their lights. I sped up. 65. 70. They sped up too. Stayed right behind me. Perfect formation. Never getting closer. Never falling back. This went on for about 20 miles. Me driving, them following. Nobody else on the road. Just us moving through the darkness. Then I saw something that made my skin crawl. There was a curve ahead. Sharp curve. I slowed down to take it safely. In my mirrors, I watched those trucks behind me. They didn't slow down. They went straight off the road, into the desert. But they didn't crash. The lights just kept going, in a straight line, through the terrain, through whatever was in their way. Like the road didn't matter, like physics didn't matter. The lights curved back onto the highway on the other side of the curve, fell back into formation behind me, like nothing had happened. I was breathing hard now, heart pounding. I grabbed the CB again. Okay, I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing, but you need to back off. This isn't funny. Static. Then a voice. Multiple voices, all talking at once, all saying the same thing. Join us, join us, join us. I threw the handset down, pushed the truck faster, 80 miles per hour. Dangerous speed with my load, but I didn't care. I needed to get away from them. They stayed with me. Perfect formation, never getting closer, never falling back, and I could hear them now. Engines, dozens of engines, roaring in perfect harmony. Too loud, louder than engines should be. I saw lights ahead, a town, Ely, Nevada. Small town, but it had a truck stop. I took the exit, fast, tires squealing, pulled into the truck stop and parked right under the brightest light I could find. I looked in my mirrors. Those trucks had followed me off the exit. They were lined up on the access road. Lights still on, engines still running. Just sitting there, watching. I stayed in my cab, doors locked, watching them. They didn't move, just sat there. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Time felt weird, stretched out. Then one by one the lights turned off, starting from the back of the convoy, moving forward, click, 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 until they were all dark. And then there was nothing, just empty road. I waited until sunrise. 6 hours sitting in that parking lot, watching, waiting. The sun came up and I finally got out, walked over to the access road where those trucks had been. There was nothing there, no tire tracks, no oil stains, nothing to indicate that anything had been there. I asked the attendant inside if he'd seen a convoy of trucks parked on the access road. He looked at me confused. Said he hadn't seen any trucks except mine. I finished my drive to Utah, got my load delivered, told my dispatcher I needed a few days off. He didn't argue, said I sounded rough. When I got home, I started researching, looking for other drivers who'd had similar experiences on Route 50. I found dozens of reports, online forums, CB radio logs, stories going back decades, drivers seeing phantom convoys, trucks with no drivers, lights that move through the desert, voices on the radio saying the same thing. Join us! Some drivers said they'd followed the convoy, turned off the highway, followed those lights into the desert. Most of those drivers were never heard from again. A few came back, said they found old truck wrecks out there, dozens of them. Rusted out, some from the 40s and 50s, some more recent. All arranged in a perfect line, like they'd been part of a convoy, like they'd been part of something. There's a theory that Route 50 sits on some kind of thin place, where reality is weaker, where things from other places can bleed through, that those phantom trucks are echoes, ghosts, something worse. I don't know what I saw that night. I don't know what was following me. I don't know what would have happened if I'd followed them off the highway, if I'd joined their convoy. All I know is that I've never driven Route 50 at night again. I take the long way around, I-80 north. Adds 6 hours to my drive, but I don't care. Because somewhere out there in the Nevada desert, there's a convoy of phantom trucks, and they're looking for new members. They're looking for drivers to join them, to follow them into the dark. And if you see lights behind you on that lonely highway, if you hear voices on your CB radio telling you to join them, don't stop. Don't slow down. Don't follow. Just drive. Drive until you hit daylight. Drive until you hit civilization. Drive until you're safe, because once you join that convoy, you're part of it forever, and you'll never make it home. I've been hauling freight for 23 years. Started when I was 25. I know the rules, I know the regulations, and I know every way station on every major highway in the continental United States. So when I pulled into a way station I'd never seen before, I should have known something was wrong immediately. It was June 2020, middle of the pandemic. Roads were empty. Businesses were closed. The whole world felt wrong. I was hauling medical supplies from Memphis to Atlanta. Essential freight, one of the few trucks still running regular routes. I was on I-20 in Alabama. Late afternoon. Sun was getting low. I was tired. The isolation was getting to me. Weeks of driving through empty highways, closed rest stops, minimal human contact. It was wearing on me. I saw the sign, way station ahead. All trucks must enter. I didn't think twice. I'd driven this route 100 times. I knew there was a way station somewhere around here. I moved over to the right lane, slowed down, followed the signs. The access road was longer than I remembered, curved off the highway and into some woods. Pine trees on both sides. The road was old, cracked asphalt, no recent maintenance, no fresh paint on the lines. The way station was at the end of the access road. Old building, looked like it was from the 60s. White paint peeling off the walls, small office, scale house, a few parking spots. There were no other trucks. The place looked deserted, but the lights were on in the office. The scale was active. The sign out front said, "Open." I pulled onto the scale, put the truck in park. Waited. Usually someone comes out, checks your paperwork, waves you through. Takes maybe 5 minutes. I waited. Nobody came out. I looked at the office. The lights were on, but I couldn't see anyone inside. The windows were dirty, covered in dust and grime. I waited another few minutes. Still nobody. I grabbed my paperwork and climbed out of the cab. Figured I'd just go inside. Find whoever was supposed to be working, get cleared and get back on the road. I walked up to the office door. It was propped open, rusted metal door hanging at an angle. I pushed through. The inside was wrong. Old, really old. Everything looked like it hadn't been touched since the 60s. An old desk with papers scattered on it, an ancient computer monitor. Thick layer of dust on everything. Old calendar on the wall showing September 1967. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded too loud in the empty space. No answer. I walked further in. There was a door in the back, half open. I could see a bathroom beyond it. Old toilet, sink, mirror. I walked up to the door, pushed it open. The bathroom was empty, but the mirror. Something was wrong with the mirror. It showed the reflection of the bathroom. But in the reflection, someone was standing behind me. I spun around. Nobody there. I looked back at the mirror. The figure was still there, standing right behind where I was. Tall, dark clothes. No features, just a dark shape. I backed out of the bathroom, fast, nearly tripped over my own feet. My heart was hammering. I turned and headed for the exit. That's when I noticed the papers on the desk. I'd walked past them before, but now I actually looked at them. They were old way tickets. From 1967, different trucks, different drivers. All dated September 15th, 1967, and at the bottom of each ticket, stamped in red ink, "Detained." I ran for the door, got outside. The sun was setting now. Everything was getting dark. My truck was still on the scale. I ran to it, climbed in, turned the key. Nothing. The engine turned over but wouldn't start. I tried again. Same thing. The battery was fine. The gauges were lit. Everything looked normal, but the engine wouldn't catch. I looked in my rearview mirror. Someone was standing behind my truck, that same dark shape from the mirror, just standing there, perfectly still. I tried the engine again, and again. It coughed, sputtered. Come on, please." The shape started walking toward me, slow, deliberate, getting closer to the driver's side door. The engine caught, roared to life. I didn't wait. I threw it in gear and drove straight off the scale. Didn't stop, didn't look back, just drove. The access road back to the highway felt longer, twisting through those woods. Dark now, my headlights barely cutting through the shadows. I kept checking my mirrors, looking for that shape. It wasn't there, but I could feel it, could feel something watching me. I got back to the highway, merged into traffic. There were other cars now, other trucks, civilization. Safety. I drove for an hour before I pulled over at a real truck stop. One I recognized. I sat in the parking lot, hands shaking, heart still racing. I called my dispatcher, told him I'd had some engine trouble. that I'd be delayed. Didn't mention the way station. Didn't mention what I'd seen. He wouldn't have believed me anyway. When I got back home, I looked up that way station, tried to find it on maps. Tried to find any record of it. There was nothing. No way station on that stretch of I-20 in Alabama. Not currently. Not ever according to the records I could find. But I did find something else. News articles from 1967 about a way station on I-20, about a scale operator who went missing. They found his body 3 weeks later in the woods behind the station, dead for at least 2 weeks. But witnesses said they'd seen him working at the station during those 2 weeks, seen him checking trucks, seen him moving around in the office. The way station was shut down after that. Demolished. The access road was supposed to be blocked off. Supposed to be impossible to reach. But I reached it. I drove right into it. And I saw him, or what was left of him, still working, still checking trucks. Still detaining drivers who make the mistake of stopping. I've driven I-20 through Alabama dozens of times since then, always during the day, always alert. And whenever I see a way station sign that doesn't look quite right, I keep driving. I don't care if it's against the law. I don't care if I get fined. Because some way stations don't want to check your load. They want to check you. They want to see if you're worth keeping, worth detaining. And I've got no interest in finding out what detention means at a way station that doesn't exist. I live in rural Pennsylvania, small town called Clearfield, middle of nowhere, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody's, where nothing interesting ever happens. I'd been driving trucks for about 6 years, local routes mostly. Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, home every weekend. Good, steady work. In November 2017, I was coming home from a run to Pittsburgh. Late Friday night. I delivered a load of furniture to a warehouse in the suburbs. Got done around 9 p.m. Started the drive home. Should have taken about 2.5 hours. Easy drive. Roads I knew well. I was on Route 80 heading east. Traffic was light. Cold night, frost forming on the road. I was tired, ready to get home, see my wife, sleep in my own bed. Around 10:30, I noticed the truck behind me. White Peterbilt, older model. Staying about a 1/4 mile back, matching my speed, I thought maybe it was another driver heading the same direction. No big deal. I took my exit. County Road 879, 2-lane highway leading up to Clearfield. The white truck took the same exit, still maintaining that distance. 1/4 mile back. I could see the headlights in my mirror. I thought it was a coincidence. Maybe the driver lived in the area too. Small world. Happens sometimes. I turned off 879 onto Mill Road. Smaller road. Leads to my neighborhood. The white truck turned too, still keeping that distance. Never getting closer, never falling back. That's when I started to feel uneasy. Mill Road doesn't go anywhere important. Just residential areas, farms. If you're driving a big rig, there's no reason to be on Mill Road unless you live there. And I knew all the truckers in the area. I didn't recognize this truck. I turned onto my street. Oak Ridge Drive, dead-end street, only 6 houses. Mine was at the end. The white truck turned onto Oak Ridge too. My heart started pounding. This wasn't a coincidence. This was intentional. Someone was following me, right to my house. I pulled into my driveway, killed the engine. The white truck stopped at the end of the street, just sat there. Lights on, engine running. Not moving. I grabbed my phone, thought about calling the cops, but what would I tell them? That someone drove behind me, that someone parked on my street. It sounded crazy. I watched the truck in my side mirror. It sat there for maybe 5 minutes, just idling. Then the lights turned off. Engine went quiet, but the truck was still there. I could see the silhouette in the darkness. My porch light came on. My wife, Sarah, opened the front door. She must have heard me pull up. She waved. I waved back. Tried to act normal. Didn't want to scare her. I climbed out of my cab. Kept my eyes on that white truck. Walked quickly to my house. Sarah was smiling. "Hey, baby, how was the drive?" "Fine," I said. "Let's get inside." She noticed my tone. "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired." "Come on." We went inside. I locked the door, went to the window, looked out at the street. The white truck was still there, dark, silent. "What are you looking at?" Sarah asked. "That truck at the end of the street. You ever seen it before?" She came to the window, looked out. "No. Why?" "It followed me home." "What do you mean, followed you?" "I mean it got off the highway when I did. Turned when I turned. Drove right to our street, and now it's just sitting there." Sarah looked worried now. "Should we call the police?" "I don't know. Maybe. Let me watch for a bit. See if they leave." I watched for an hour. Sarah went to bed. I stayed at the window. The truck never moved. No lights, no movement, just sitting there. Around midnight, I saw the driver's door open. Someone climbed out. Tall figure. Couldn't make out any details in the darkness. They stood next to the truck, looking at my house, just standing there. I called the cops. Told them someone was parked on my street. Someone who'd followed me home. The dispatcher said they'd send someone out. Told me to stay inside, lock the doors. I waited. The figure was still standing there, not moving, just watching my house. It was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Finally, I saw the patrol car turn onto Oak Ridge. Lights on. The figure immediately got back in the truck, fired up the engine. By the time the patrol car reached the end of the street, the white truck was backing up, turning around, driving away. The officer came to my door, asked me what happened. I explained everything, the truck following me, parking on my street, the figure standing outside. He took notes. Seemed concerned. Said he'd patrol the area. Told me to call immediately if the truck came back. That night I barely slept. Kept getting up, checking the windows, looking for that white truck. It didn't come back. The next morning I went outside, walked down to where the truck had been parked. There were tire marks on the road, oil stain, and something else. Something that made my blood run cold. Scratched into the frost on the road. Letters, a message. It said, "I know where you live." I called the cops again. They came out, took photos, filed a report. They didn't find the truck, didn't have a plate number, no witnesses, nothing to go on. They said they'd increase patrols in the area. Told me to be careful, to watch for anything suspicious. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't see the truck, didn't see anything unusual. I started to relax, started to think maybe it was over. Maybe it was just some asshole trying to scare me. Maybe they'd gotten bored and moved on. Then I was coming home from another run. Different day, different time, around 6 p.m. Still light out. I was on Route 80 again. I looked in my mirror. The white truck was behind me, quarter-mile back, matching my speed. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone, called 911. Told them the truck was following me again. Gave them my location. They said to drive to the nearest police station. Don't go home. Don't stop. I took the exit for Clearfield. The truck followed. I drove straight to the police station downtown. Pulled into the parking lot. The white truck drove past. Slow, like it was making sure I saw it. Then it disappeared down a side street. I filed another report. They took it seriously this time. Started actively looking for the truck. Put out a bolo. Be on the lookout. White Peterbilt. Older model. No plate information. Not much to go on. 3 more times over the next month I saw that truck, always behind me, always following me home, always disappearing before the cops could find it. Sarah was terrified. She wanted to move, to get out of Clearfield, to go somewhere safe. I couldn't blame her. I was terrified too. Then it stopped. I didn't see the truck for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months. Nothing. It was like it had never existed. The cops never found it. Never found who was driving it. Never found any explanation. I still live in Clearfield. Still drive trucks, but I take different routes now. Change my schedule. Never drive the same way twice. I check my mirrors constantly, looking for that white truck, looking for those headlights a quarter mile back. Sometimes I see white Peterbilts on the highway. My heart stops. I slow down, let them pass, make sure it's not the same one. So far, it never has been. But I know it's out there. Somewhere. The truck that followed me home. The driver who knows where I live. Who knows my route. Who knows my schedule. I don't know what they wanted. I don't know why they chose me. I don't know if they'll come back. All I know is that somewhere out there, someone is watching, someone is waiting, someone is patient, and one day, when I least expect it, I'll look in my mirror and see those headlights again. A quarter mile back, matching my speed, following me home, and this time I don't think they'll just watch. Channel 19 on the CB radio is the main trucker channel. That's where we communicate. Traffic updates, weather reports, road conditions, warnings about cops, warnings about construction. Just general chatter to break up the loneliness of the road. I've been using CB radios for 15 years. I've heard a lot of weird shit. Drunk drivers rambling, conspiracy theories, ghost stories, people having mental breakdowns in real time. But what I heard one night in Wyoming was different. It was something that shouldn't have been possible. It was January 2021. Dead of winter. I was hauling a load of agricultural equipment from Boise to Cheyenne. Cold night, snow on the ground. Roads were clear, but the temperature was well below freezing. I was on I-80 westbound, middle of nowhere, Wyoming, just endless stretches of nothing. Darkness broken only by my headlights. It was around 3 a.m. I was tired, fighting to stay awake. I had the CB on, Channel 19, listening to the occasional chatter. Other drivers checking in. Someone warning about black ice near Rock Springs. Someone else complaining about a DOT checkpoint. Then the voice came through. It was distorted, crackling with static. Male voice, but wrong. Like it was speaking through something. Through water. Through distance. "Driver, can you hear me? Driver." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Flat. Emotionless. I picked up my handset. "Yeah, I can hear you. What's your 20? Behind you." I looked in my mirrors. Nothing. Just empty highway. No lights. No vehicles. "I don't see you, buddy. Where are you?" "Behind you. Look behind you." I checked again. Still nothing. "There's nobody behind me." "You sure you got the right truck?" "I'm right behind you. Look." A chill ran down my spine. I didn't like this. Didn't like the tone. Didn't like the weird insistence. "Who is this?" I asked. "A friend. I've been watching you, driving. You're tired. You should rest." I was tired. But how did they know that? "I'm fine. I'll rest when I get to Cheyenne." "You won't make it to Cheyenne." My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You're going to crash. You're going to die. Tonight, on this road." I felt ice in my stomach. "Is that a threat?" "Not a threat. A warning. Pull over, rest, or you'll die." "Fuck off." I threw the handset down, switched the CB off. My heart was pounding. Some asshole trying to mess with me, trying to scare me. Probably thought it was funny. I drove in silence for about 10 minutes. Tried to calm down, told myself it was nothing, just some bored driver being an asshole. Or maybe a kid with a CB radio. Kids do that sometimes, think it's funny to mess with truckers. Then my CB turned on by itself. The voice came through. "You shouldn't have turned me off." I stared at the CB. I'd switched it off. I'd seen the light go out, but now it was on again. And that voice was speaking. "Pull over, now." "How are you doing this?" I asked. I hadn't picked up the handset, but the CB was receiving, broadcasting. "I'm always here on this road, watching, waiting. I know what's going to happen. I can see it. You need to pull over." "There's nothing to pull over for. There's no shoulder, no rest area. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's a pullout, half a mile ahead. On the right, pull over there. Wait." "Wait for what?" "You'll see." I came around a curve, and there it was. A pullout, small dirt area on the right shoulder. I hadn't known it was there. I'd driven this route before, but I'd never noticed it. Every instinct told me not to stop, to keep driving, to ignore the voice. But another part of me was curious. Wanted to know what this was, who this was. I slowed down, pulled into the dirt pullout, put the truck in park, left the engine running, grabbed my flashlight, my phone, made sure I had 911 ready to dial. I waited. The CB was silent now. No static, no voice, just quiet. I watched the highway. A few cars passed. No trucks, nothing unusual. Minutes ticked by. 5, 10, 15. Then I saw the lights. Big truck coming fast from the west. Really fast. Too fast. Weaving slightly, like the driver was drunk or asleep. The truck flew past my pullout. I watched in my mirror. It was a big rig, similar to mine, moving at least 90 miles per hour, completely out of control. About a quarter-mile down the road, it started to fishtail. The trailer swung wide, the whole rig jackknifed. It went off the road, rolled, once, twice, metal screaming, glass shattering. It came to rest in the ditch, upside down, steam rising from the wreckage. I grabbed my phone, called 911, reported the accident, gave them the location. Then I drove down to the wreck, pulled over, grabbed my fire extinguisher and first aid kit, ran to the overturned truck. The cab was crushed. I could see the driver inside. He wasn't moving. There was blood, too much blood. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. He was gone. Probably died on impact. Emergency vehicles arrived about 20 minutes later. State troopers, ambulance, fire department. They took over, asked me questions. I told them what I'd seen, that I'd been pulled over, that I'd witnessed the whole thing. They thanked me, said I'd done everything right. They didn't ask why I'd been pulled over in that exact spot. They didn't ask how I'd happened to be in the perfect position to witness the accident, to call it in immediately. They just assumed it was luck. Coincidence. But I knew better. I got back in my truck, started driving again. The CB was still on. I hadn't touched it. I picked up the handset. "Thank you," I said. "You saved my life." Static. Then that voice. "I told you. I can see what's going to happen. I tried to warn him too, but he didn't listen. You did." "Who are you?" "I'm what's left, on this road. I died here, 10 years ago, same kind of accident. I tried to warn myself, but I couldn't hear, couldn't listen. Now I'm stuck here, watching, warning, trying to save others." "You're a ghost?" "I don't know what I am. I just know I'm here, always here, on this road, watching for drivers who are too tired, too reckless, too close to dying. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't." "How many have you saved?" "I don't know. I don't remember. It all blurs together. Time doesn't work right here." But I keep trying, keep warning. It's all I can do. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to help him, to free him, to let him move on. But I didn't know how. Is there anything I can do? I asked. Just drive safe. Tell other drivers. Tell them to listen to the warnings, to pull over when they're tired, to rest, to live. That's all I want, for people to live. I will. I promise. Thank you. The CB went silent. I drove the rest of the way to Cheyenne, arrived around 6 a.m. Got my load delivered, got some rest, and I kept my promise. I tell other drivers about the voice on I-80 in Wyoming, about the ghost who warns drivers, who saves lives. Some of them laugh. Think I'm crazy, think I'm making it up, but some of them listen, some of them believe, and some of them have heard the voice too. There's a memorial marker now on I-80, near where that driver crashed, near where I pulled over. It's for a trucker named David Morrison, died in a single vehicle accident in January 2011. Fell asleep at the wheel. Nobody else was hurt. Just him. I think that's who the voice belongs to. David Morrison. Still trying to keep other drivers safe. Still warning them. Still watching over that lonely stretch of a highway. If you're ever driving I-80 through Wyoming late at night and you hear a voice on your CB radio telling you to pull over, listen. Don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it. Because that voice is trying to save your life. And maybe, just maybe, by listening, you're giving David Morrison some peace, some purpose, some redemption for the mistake that cost him his life. Drive safe. Rest when you're tired. And always listen to the warnings. Because on the loneliest highways, sometimes the dead are more concerned about the living than the living are about themselves. I've been a long-haul trucker for 17 years. In that time, I've hauled everything you can imagine. Furniture, food, electronics, construction materials, hazardous materials, live animals. You name it, I've probably hauled it. But there's one load I hauled that I'm not supposed to talk about. One load that I wish I'd never agreed to transport. One load that still haunts me. It was August 2018. I got a call from a dispatcher I'd never worked with before. He said they had a special job. High pay, time sensitive, confidential. He wouldn't give me details over the phone. Said I needed to come to a warehouse in Newark, New Jersey for a briefing. I should have said no. Should have told him I wasn't interested. But the pay he quoted was 3 times my normal rate. For one run, Newark to a location in rural Montana. 2 days of driving. I needed the money. I'd just gotten divorced. Owed lawyer fees. Child support. I said yes. The warehouse was in an industrial area. Old building. No signs. No company name. Just an address. I pulled up around midnight. There were 2 black SUVs parked outside. Men in suits. They looked like government types. FBI maybe. Or something worse. One of them approached my truck, knocked on my window. I rolled it down. He held up a badge. It had official-looking seals, but I didn't recognize the agency. You the driver? Yeah, I'm here for the pickup. Step out, please. We need to go over some rules. I climbed out, followed him to the warehouse entrance. Another man in a suit was waiting there. He had a clipboard, papers. Sign these, he said. No introduction, no pleasantries. Just to sign these. I looked at the papers. Non-disclosure agreement. Liability waiver. Basically saying I couldn't talk about this job. Couldn't tell anyone what I was hauling. Couldn't ask questions. If I violated the agreement, I'd face criminal prosecution. Possible jail time. I should have walked away right then. Should have told them to find another driver. But I thought about the money, about my bills, about my kids. I signed. They led me into the warehouse. It was mostly empty. Concrete floor, high ceilings, dim lighting. In the center of the floor was a container, not a shipping container. Something else. Metal, about 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, 4 feet tall. It looked like a coffin, a big metal coffin. "That's your cargo," the first man said. "You'll be taking it to Montana. We'll give you the exact address when you're 4 hours out. You don't open it. You don't inspect it. You don't stop except for fuel and food. You drive straight through." "Understood." "What's in it?" I asked. "That's not your concern. I need to know what I'm hauling, for safety, for legal purposes." The man stepped closer, looked me right in the eyes. "You signed the papers. You agreed not to ask questions. The contents are classified. You don't need to know. You just need to drive. Can you do that, or do we need to find someone else?" I looked at the container. It had warning labels on it. Biohazard symbols. Radioactive symbols. Other symbols I didn't recognize. Whatever was inside, it was dangerous, but I'd signed the papers. I was committed, and I really needed that money. "I can do it." They loaded the container into my trailer using a forklift, secured it with chains, locked the trailer. The lock was electronic, high-tech. Not something I could open even if I wanted to. They gave me a phone. Burner phone. "This is your only communication device during the trip. Your personal phone stays here. You'll get it back when you return. This phone has one number programmed. You call if there's an emergency. Otherwise, you don't use it. Clear?" "Clear." I left Newark around 2 a.m. Started driving west. The first few hours were normal, just me and the road. I tried not to think about what was in the back. Tried to focus on driving, on getting to Montana, on getting paid. Around dawn, I stopped for fuel in Pennsylvania. Small truck stop. I filled up. Went inside for coffee. Used the bathroom. Got back on the road. Standard procedure. But as I was pulling out of the truck stop, I noticed something. The trailer felt lighter. Like the weight distribution had changed. Like something had shifted. I thought maybe the chains had come loose, that the container had moved. I should have called the number, should have reported it, but I didn't want to seem incompetent, didn't want to lose the job. So I kept driving. A few hours later, I was on I-80 in Ohio. Middle of the afternoon, lots of traffic. I stopped for lunch at a rest area, parked far from other vehicles. Ate a sandwich in my cab. That's when I heard it. A sound from the trailer, a thump, like something hitting the metal walls from inside. I froze. Listened. Nothing. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe it was just the trailer settling. Old trailers make noise sometimes. Then I heard it again. Thump, thump, rhythmic. Like someone knocking, like something was alive in there. My heart started racing. I grabbed the burner phone, dialed the only number. It rang and rang. Nobody answered. Went to voicemail. Generic message. "Leave your information. Someone will get back to you." I left a message. "There's something wrong with the cargo. I'm hearing sounds. I think something's alive in there. Call me back. Now." I waited. 10 minutes. 20. No callback. I tried again. Same thing. No answer. Just voicemail. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't open the trailer. The lock was electronic. I didn't have the code. And even if I could open it, I'd signed papers saying I wouldn't. I'd face prosecution, jail time. But something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And I was stuck in the middle of it. I kept driving. What else could I do? The sounds continued. Thumping. Sometimes scratching, like claws on metal. Sometimes I thought I heard voices. Muffled. Distant. Speaking in a language I didn't understand. Night fell. I was in Iowa, middle of nowhere, dark highway, no traffic, just me and whatever was in the trailer. The sounds were getting louder, more frequent, more aggressive. Like whatever was inside was trying to get out. I was terrified, hands shaking, heart pounding. I kept trying the phone. Nobody answered. I was on my own. I thought about stopping, about calling the regular cops, about telling them I had something dangerous in my trailer. But the papers I'd signed, the threats of prosecution, I didn't know what to do. Around midnight, I was in Nebraska. I pulled over at a rest area, needed to use the bathroom, needed to calm down, needed to think. I parked away from other vehicles, climbed out, stood next to the trailer. Listened. The sounds had stopped. Everything was quiet. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever was inside had died. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was nothing. I walked around to the back of the trailer, put my hand on the door. It was cold. Colder than it should have been. Like it was refrigerated, but there was no refrigeration unit. Just a standard trailer. Then I felt it, a vibration, coming from inside. Low frequency. Felt like a heartbeat. Slow. Steady. Powerful. The electronic lock clicked. The door swung open. Just a crack. Maybe an inch. I could see inside, could see the container, the metal coffin. One of the panels had come loose. There was a gap. And from that gap, I could see something. Something moving. Something pale and wet. Something with too many limbs. I slammed the door shut. Stepped back. My legs were shaking. I wanted to run, to leave the truck, to get as far away as possible. But I couldn't. I was bound by contract, by law, by my own stupidity. I climbed back in the cab, locked the doors, started driving. Drove all night, didn't stop, didn't sleep. Just drove. The sounds from the trailer were constant now. Thumping, scratching, sometimes screaming, high-pitched, inhuman. I turned the radio up as loud as it would go. Tried to drown it out. It didn't help. By morning, I was in Montana. The phone finally rang. I answered immediately. Hello, hello? Give me your location. It was one of the men from Newark. Same cold voice. I told him. Something's wrong with the cargo. It's making sounds. The container is damaged. I think something's trying to get out. We know. We're tracking you. Drive to these coordinates. He gave me an address. Rural Montana, middle of nowhere. You'll be met there. Do not stop. Do not open the trailer. Do not talk to anyone. Understood? What the fuck is in there? Drive. Now. He hung up. I drove. Followed the GPS to the coordinates. Dirt road leading off the highway, miles into the wilderness. No buildings, no signs of civilization. Just forest and mountains. Finally, I saw them. The black SUVs, parked in a clearing, the men in suits and others. People in hazmat suits, military vehicles, guns, lots of guns. I pulled up, stopped. Someone waved me forward, directed me to back the trailer up to a large metal structure, like a cargo container, but bigger, reinforced. They hooked something to the trailer, some kind of airlock. Then they unlocked the electronic lock. Opened the door. From inside the metal structure, not from outside. They weren't taking any chances. I watched in my side mirror. Couldn't see much, just shadows moving, lights flashing. Then I heard it, that screaming again, louder, multiple voices, then gunfire, rapid, automatic weapons. Screaming got louder, then stopped, cut off abruptly. Silence. One of the men approached my cab. You can leave now. What was that? What did I just transport? You signed an NDA. You don't ask. You don't talk. You forget this ever happened. Your payment will be wired to your account within 24 hours. Drive safe. He walked away. I sat there for a moment. Then I started the engine. Drove away, didn't look back, drove straight home, took 3 days off. Didn't talk to anyone. Didn't sleep much. Just sat in my apartment, trying to process what had happened. The money showed up in my account, all of it. Plus a bonus, double what they'd promised. And a message. Thank you for your discretion. Don't talk. I haven't talked, haven't told anyone. Until now. But even now I'm being vague, not giving exact dates, exact locations, exact details. Because I don't want to violate that NDA, don't want to end up in jail. Or worse. I don't know what I transported. Some kind of biological weapon, maybe. Some kind of experiment. Something that shouldn't exist. Something that the government is keeping secret. I still drive trucks. Still take jobs. But I'm careful now. I ask questions. I don't sign NDAs. I don't haul unmarked cargo. I don't take jobs from strangers. Because somewhere in rural Montana, there's a facility that contains something from my trailer. Something dangerous. Something that screams. Something that tries to escape. And somewhere in New Jersey, there are people who transport these things, who recruit drivers, who pay good money for silence, and I was one of those drivers, and I'll never forget what I heard, what I saw, what I transported, and I'll never haul another load like that again. Some cargo is better left untouched, some questions are better left unasked. Some money is not worth the nightmares. Highway 12 in Idaho is one of the most beautiful drives in America. It follows the Clearwater River through mountains and forests. Scenic, winding, remote. It's the kind of road that makes you remember why you became a trucker in the first place. The freedom, the beauty, the solitude. But on one night in October 2019, Highway 12 became something else. Something wrong. Something that still makes me avoid that route whenever possible. I was hauling lumber from Lewiston to Missoula. Evening run, left around 5 p.m. The weather was clear, cool, fall colors were at their peak. The drive should have been easy. Relaxing. 4 hours through some of the prettiest country in the Northwest. The first hour was perfect. Sun setting behind the mountains. Golden light on the trees. A few other vehicles, but mostly empty road. I had good music playing. Coffee in my cup holder. Everything was fine. Then I hit the fog. It came out of nowhere. 1 second the road was clear. The next, I was driving into a wall of white. Thick fog. Dense. I could barely see 20 feet ahead. I slowed down. Dropped to about 30 miles per hour. Turned on my fog lights, my 4 ways, standard procedure. But this fog was different. It wasn't normal fog. It was too thick, too white, too uniform, like driving through cotton. Like the world outside my truck had disappeared. I couldn't see the road edges, couldn't see the river, couldn't see the trees, just white everywhere. I thought about pulling over, waiting it out. But there was no shoulder on this part of the highway. Just narrow road with steep drop-offs on one side and rock walls on the other. I had to keep moving. Slow. Careful. Following the white line in the middle of the road, then I realized I hadn't seen another vehicle in 20 minutes. Nobody had passed me going the other direction. Nobody had come up behind me. I was completely alone, on a highway that usually has at least some traffic. It was wrong, unnatural. I tried my CB radio. Anyone out there on Highway 12? I've got zero visibility in this fog. What are conditions like ahead? Static. No response. I tried again. Anyone near Lowell, Idaho? Come back if you can hear me. More static. Then a voice, faint, distorted. Turn back. I picked up the handset. Say again? I didn't copy. Turn back. Don't go further. The fog. It's not safe. Who is this? What's your 20? Turn back while you still can. The voice cut out. Just static. I tried calling again. Nothing. Just empty airwaves. I was getting seriously uncomfortable now. The fog, the isolation, the cryptic warning, everything felt wrong. I kept driving. What choice did I have? I couldn't turn around. The road was too narrow. I couldn't stop. There was nowhere to pull over. I could only go forward, into the fog, into the unknown. That's when I started seeing the shapes. At first, I thought they were trees, shadows of trees in the fog, but they were moving, keeping pace with my truck. Figures, tall, walking alongside the highway, dozens of them, hundreds, all moving in the same direction I was going, all silent, all just shapes in the white. I slowed down even more, trying to see them clearly, but the fog was too thick. I could only see outlines, suggestions of forms, human-shaped but wrong, too tall, too thin, moving in ways that didn't look natural. My headlights caught one of them for a second. Clear view. It was maybe 7 feet tall, impossibly thin. Long arms hanging down past its knees. No face, just smooth white surface where a face should be. Then it stepped back into the fog and disappeared. I was breathing hard now. Heart pounding, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I wanted to floor it, to get out of there as fast as possible. But I couldn't see. Couldn't risk going off the road. Couldn't risk crashing. I was trapped, forced to crawl through this nightmare at 30 miles per hour. The figures kept walking alongside me. Sometimes they got closer. Close enough that I thought they might touch the truck. Then they'd fade back, disappear into the white, reappear somewhere else. They never made a sound, never acknowledged me, just walked, endlessly. Silently. I don't know how long I drove like that. Time felt wrong, stretched out. My clock said 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. Days. The fog never thinned. The figures never stopped. I just kept driving, following that white line, praying I'd make it through. Then I saw the light ahead. Red light, bright, cutting through the fog. Tail lights, another vehicle. Someone else was out here. I wasn't alone. Relief flooded through me. I sped up slightly, trying to catch up, trying to reach that other vehicle. But no matter how fast I went, the lights stayed the same distance ahead. Never getting closer, never getting further. Just maintaining that constant distance. I realized after a few minutes that it wasn't speeding up or slowing down. It was matching my speed exactly, like it was leading me or luring me. The lights turned off the highway, onto a side road. I saw the turn, narrow dirt road leading off into the forest, into the fog. The lights disappeared down that road, and for a moment I almost followed, almost turned. Some instinct, some compulsion, telling me to follow those lights, to see where they led. But I didn't. I kept going straight, stayed on the highway, and the moment I passed that turnoff, the fog began to thin. Not gradually, instantly, like I'd driven through a curtain. 1 second I was in the thick white. The next, I was back in clear night air. I looked in my mirrors. Behind me was a wall of fog. Solid, unmoving, like a physical barrier. I could see where it started and where it ended. Perfectly defined edge. The fog was contained to that one section of highway, maybe 10 miles long. Just sitting there. Not spreading. Not dissipating. Just waiting. I drove for another hour. Didn't stop. Didn't slow down. Just put distance between me and that fog. When I finally pulled into a truck stop near Missoula, I was shaking, exhausted, traumatized. I asked other drivers if they'd driven Highway 12 that night, if they'd encountered fog, if they'd seen anything strange. Most of them said no, said the highway had been clear. One older driver, though, looked at me seriously. "You saw the fog," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, how did you know?" "Happens sometimes. On Highway 12. Between Lowell and Powell. Fog that shouldn't be there. Figures walking in it. Lights that lead you astray. Nobody knows what it is. Old-timers say it's some kind of phenomenon, some kind of thin place where reality gets weird. Native Americans won't go near that stretch of road at night. Say it's cursed. How do I avoid it? You don't. It comes and goes. No pattern, no warning. You either drive through it or you don't. Most people who enter the fog make it through, but some don't. Some follow the lights, turn off the highway, and they're never seen again. Police find their trucks sometimes, abandoned on old logging roads. Doors open, no sign of the driver. No footprints, no blood, nothing. Just empty trucks. I thanked him, finished my drive, delivered my load, took a week off after that. Needed to clear my head, needed to process what I'd experienced. I've driven Highway 12 a few times since then, always during the day, always when the weather is clear. I've never encountered that fog again, never seen those figures, never seen those mysterious lights. But I know it's there, waiting for the right night, the right conditions, the right driver. If you ever find yourself on Highway 12 in Idaho after dark and you see fog rolling in, thick and white and unnatural, turn around if you can. Find another route. Wait it out. Don't drive into it. Don't follow any lights you see in it. Don't let curiosity get the better of you, because that fog isn't weather, it's something else. Something that exists between worlds, between states of reality, and the things that walk in it aren't human. And the lights that beckon you aren't leading you to safety. They're leading you away, into the unknown, into places you can't come back from. I made it through. I didn't follow the lights. I didn't turn off the highway, but I came close, and I know that someday someone else won't be as lucky. Someone else will follow those lights, will turn onto that dark road, will disappear into the fog, and they'll join whatever walks there. Forever. Drive safe, stay on the highway. And if you see the fog, just keep going. Don't stop, don't look, don't wonder. Just drive and pray you make it through. I'm retiring next month. After 25 years of driving trucks, I'm hanging up the keys, selling my rig, settling down. I've seen enough highways. Enough truck stops, enough lonely roads stretching into darkness. I'm done. But there's one delivery I need to talk about before I leave this life behind. One last run that made me realize it was time to quit. That there are things on the road that we aren't meant to understand. Things that watch us, things that wait, and sometimes things that take. It was March of this year, 2025. I got a call for a special delivery. Medical supplies going from Portland, Oregon to a remote clinic in northern Montana, near the Canadian border, middle of nowhere. The pay was good. Not great, but good enough. And I'd made the run before. Long drive, empty roads, but straightforward. I picked up the load on a Tuesday morning, standard refrigerated trailer. Medical supplies need to stay cold, vaccines, blood products, other temperature-sensitive materials. The paperwork was all in order. Everything looked legitimate. I hit the road around noon. The first day was normal. I-84 through Oregon, I-90 through Idaho. Standard route. I stopped for the night at a truck stop in Coeur d'Alene. Got some sleep. Hit the road again Wednesday morning. The plan was to deliver by Wednesday evening. Easy timeline. Wednesday afternoon I crossed into Montana. Weather was getting worse. Snow starting to fall. Wind picking up. I wasn't worried. I'd driven in worse. I had chains, good tires, experience. I pushed forward. Around 4 p.m. I turned off Highway 2 onto a county road. This was the route to the clinic. 20 miles of 2-lane road through national forest. Remote, but maintained. The clinic served several small communities. This road was used regularly. The snow was coming down harder now. Visibility was dropping. I slowed down, turned on my headlights. My fog lights kept my eyes on the road. The GPS said I was 15 miles from the clinic. Just 15 more miles. Then I could deliver the load, turn around, head back to civilization. That's when I saw the truck. It was stopped in the middle of the road, blocking both lanes, big rig, similar to mine, hazards flashing. I slowed down, stopped about 50 feet behind it. I couldn't see anyone in the cab, couldn't see any signs of damage. It was just sitting there. Engine off, abandoned. I grabbed my CB radio. This is northbound on County Road 37. There's an abandoned truck blocking the road. Anyone know what's going on? No response. Just static. I tried again. Nothing. I grabbed my cell phone. No signal. Not unusual out here. I was in the middle of the national forest. Coverage was spotty at best. I climbed out of my cab. The cold hit me immediately. Wind was vicious, snow stinging my face. I walked toward the abandoned truck. "Hey," I called out. "Anyone here? You need help?" No answer. Just the wind. I reached the truck, looked in the cab. Empty. Keys were still in the ignition. The driver had just left. Got out and walked away. Left the truck running. Left everything. That was wrong. Drivers don't just abandon their trucks, not unless something's seriously wrong. I looked around, saw footprints in the snow, leading away from the truck into the forest. Multiple sets of footprints, like several people had walked away, into the trees, into the darkness. I followed the footprints. Maybe 20 yards, they led to a clearing. And in that clearing, I saw them. Trucks. Dozens of trucks. Old trucks, new trucks, semi-trailers, box trucks, vans, all abandoned, all parked in rows, all covered in snow. Some looked like they'd been there for years. Rusted, overgrown. Others looked recent, clean, still had company logos visible. My blood went cold. This was wrong. This was so wrong. I backed away. Back toward my truck. That's when I heard the sound. A low hum, coming from the forest. All around me, getting louder, and with it, a feeling, a pressure, like something was watching, something was close, something was coming. I ran. Back to my truck, climbed in. Locked the doors. Started the engine. Had to get out of there, had to get away. But the other truck was still blocking the road. I couldn't get past. I couldn't turn around. The road was too narrow. I put my truck in reverse, started backing up, slow, careful, watching my mirrors. I'd have to back up until I found a place wide enough to turn around. Could be a mile, could be more. But I didn't have a choice. I was backing up for about 5 minutes when I saw them. In my side mirrors. Figures, walking out of the forest. Onto the road. Between me and where I'd come from, dozens of them. Same figures I'd seen in that fog on Highway 12. Tall, thin, wrong. They stood in a line across the road, blocking my escape, not moving, just watching. I stopped, put the truck in drive, looked ahead. The abandoned truck was still there, blocking the forward path. I was trapped. Between the figures and the abandoned truck, with that graveyard of vehicles in the forest, and something humming in the darkness. The figures started walking toward me. Slow, synchronized. I honked my horn. Long blast. They didn't react, just kept coming. I revved my engine, rolled forward. I'd have to push the abandoned truck out of the way, ram it if I had to, anything to get past, to escape. I accelerated, 30 miles per hour. 40. Hit the abandoned truck with my front bumper. Metal screamed. The impact threw me forward. My seatbelt caught me. I pushed harder. My wheels were spinning. The abandoned truck was sliding. Slowly, inch by inch. I was pushing it off the road, creating a gap, enough to squeeze through. The figures were getting closer, maybe 100 feet away. I could see them clearly now. Featureless faces. Long arms reaching, moving faster. They broke into a run, silent, impossibly fast, closing the distance. I got the abandoned truck far enough off the road, squeezed my truck through the gap, scraped my trailer on the guardrail. Didn't care. Just needed to get past. Needed to get away. I floored it. The truck lurched forward, tires caught. I was moving, fast, away from the figures, away from that clearing, away from whatever was in those woods. I looked in my mirrors. The figures had stopped at the abandoned truck, standing there, watching me drive away. Then they turned, walked back into the forest, back to the clearing, back to the graveyard of vehicles. And I knew what had happened to all those drivers, where they'd gone. They'd been taken, lured, trapped, and they never left. I drove for 3 hours straight. Didn't stop. Didn't slow down. Drove back to Highway 2. Back to civilization. Back to safety. I called my dispatcher, told him there was no clinic, no delivery address. The GPS coordinates were fake, led to nothing but a road and a forest and a trap. He didn't believe me, said the client was legitimate, said the clinic existed, said I must have gotten lost. But I know what I saw. I know where that road leads, and I'm never going back. I filed a report with the Montana State Police, told them about the abandoned trucks, about the clearing, about the figures. They said they'd check it out. I never heard back. Don't know if they found anything. Don't know if they even looked. Maybe they already know. Maybe they ignore it. Maybe it's beyond their ability to handle. I still have the load, the medical supplies. Sitting in a storage unit. I didn't know what else to do with it. Couldn't deliver it, couldn't return it. So it sits there, frozen, waiting. A reminder of the delivery I never completed, the route I never want to drive again. The things I saw that I can't explain. That was my last long haul. I've done a few local runs since then, short distances, daylight only. But mostly I've been preparing to retire, to leave this life behind, because I realize now that there are places on the road that aren't meant for us, places that exist between destinations, traps, lures, things that feed on travelers, on drivers who take the wrong turn, who follow the wrong directions, who trust their GPS too much. I've been lucky. 25 years on the road and I'm still here, still alive, still able to tell these stories, but I know drivers who aren't, who disappeared, who took a delivery and never came back, and I wonder how many of them are out there, in clearings, in forests, in places between places, their trucks abandoned, their lives taken, their stories never told. So this is my final warning to all the drivers still out there, still running the roads, still chasing the next delivery. Be careful, check your routes, question strange jobs, don't trust coordinates that lead to nowhere, don't follow lights in the fog, don't stop at way stations that feel wrong. And if you ever find yourself on a road where abandoned trucks line the forest and figures walk out of the darkness, turn around, get out, run, because the road takes, it always takes, and someday it might take you. I'm done now. I've said what I needed to say. I'm hanging up my keys. I'm going home, and I'm never looking back. The road can keep its secrets, its horrors, its mysteries. I've seen enough, and I've survived, and that's all that matters. Thanks for listening. If you made it through the darkness with me, you understand. You know the fear, you know the dread, you know what it's like to drive through hell and come out the other side. Drive safe out there. Watch the roads. Trust your instincts. And remember that sometimes the scariest things aren't the ones you can see. They're the ones waiting just beyond your headlights. In the fog, in the dark, on the roads that lead to nowhere, And if you ever meet a retired trucker who seems haunted, who jumps at shadows, who won't talk about certain highways or certain states, be kind, because they've seen things that changed them, things that ended their career, things they'll carry for the rest of their lives. I'm one of those drivers now, and these 11 stories, these encounters, these nightmares, they're mine, they're real, and they're why I'm leaving the road behind. Some say it ended that night in Montana, but I still check the locks 3 times before bed. I still avoid certain highways. I still wake up hearing that hum in the darkness. That feeling of being watched, of being hunted. The road never really lets you go. Even when you leave it, it stays with you. In your dreams, in your memories, in the scars it leaves on your soul. This is my final story. My final warning, my final goodbye to the life I lived, to the highways I traveled, to the things I saw that I'll never fully understand. The road is waiting. It's always waiting for the next driver, the next victim, the next story. Just make sure it's not yours.